And with that, let me turn to our guest, who is Roberto Benes, the UNICEF Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, who is joining from Haiti. Welcome, we can see on the camera. Please, Mr. Benes, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me today and allowing me also to share the voice of children in Haiti to this important briefing. Children in Haiti today wakes up not knowing if they will be able to go to school safely, find food, or even survive the day without being hit by a stray bullet or be caught in the crossfire of armed groups. More than 3.3 million children now need humanitarian assistance. And this means that 3 out of every 4 Haitian children now depend on humanitarian aid. Armed violence has torn families apart. More than 680,000 children are displaced, many of them uprooted multiple times. Schools that should be safe havens are shuttered, with over 1,600 schools affected in 1 year alone. And hospitals that should heal are overwhelmed, under attack, or simply closed. And for children caught in the grip of armed groups, the situation is catastrophic. Recruitment of children has surged by 70% in just 1 year. And today, up to half of armed group members in Haiti are children, some barely 10 years old. Malnutrition is the greatest concern. More than 1.2 million children under 5 years of age are living in areas affected by acute food insecurity, putting them at heightened risk of acute malnutrition. In displacement sites, families rely on contaminated water, fueling cholera and diarrheal disease. These are not just numbers. They are lives cut short, childhood stolen, and futures erased. And yet, Haitians refuse to give up, with examples of hope and resilience. Last week, I visited an overcrowded site for displaced persons in Port-au-Prince, one school that was closed and used by armed groups, but is today open again, and a hospital that is the only remaining public hospital functioning in the capital. I saw and heard from doctors, teachers, children, and families who inspire me. From teachers who continue to hold classes in makeshift shelters, to doctors operating with the bare minimum, to families insisting that their children continue their education, no matter the challenges, to young people helping identify cases of malnutrition, connecting families to basic social services, and raising awareness on hygiene practices to help stop the spread of cholera. And Haitians, they embody hope. But make no mistake, Haiti is at the breaking point. The future of an entire generation is at stake. And this is why last week UNICEF launched the Child Alert on Haiti. The Child Alert is not just another report, not at all. It is an evidence-based call to action and a spotlight on one of the world's most urgent and overlooked crises for children. Each Child Alert brings together data, testimonies, and field evidence from UNICEF teams on the ground and other partners as well. Its purpose is to break through global fatigue and ensure the world sees what is happening to Haiti's children, not as a distant tragedy, but as a shared responsibility. We cannot allow Haiti's children to remain invisible or forgotten. And our message is clear. Restore safe and secure humanitarian access, because aid must reach every child, especially those trapped by violence. Scale up funding immediately so life-saving assistance and protection can continue. Protect displaced children with safe shelter, psychosocial care, education, and family reunification. Rebuild basic services in health, education, water, and sanitation. And invest in child-focused recovery, because Haiti's future depends on it. And in conclusion, this is one of the most complex humanitarian crises in the world, but it is not hopeless. With urgent action, Haiti's children can be protected and helped to grow, learn, heal, and thrive. Childhood in Haiti is under siege, and urgent action is needed now to give children back their safety, their schools, and their future. Thank you.
I'll now turn the floor over to questions. Yes, Edie?
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. How many of the 680,000 children, or maybe more, are actually in school? And how many are not? And is there any number of children who are members of gangs? And you said you issued the child alert last week. What's the response been? Have you actually gotten any more funding to help the children of Haiti? Thank you.
Thank you for the question that allows me also to break down some of these numbers. What we know today is that the number of children out of school in Haiti is approximately 1 out of 4. We're facing a problem of access because of insecurity and because of the growing control on the capital by armed groups. Today, up to 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince, is controlled by armed groups. And we have 1,600 schools that are either attacked, occupied, or non-accessible by children. So this puts enormous pressure, of course, on the access to educational services from different points of view. Coupled to that, of course, the problem is that children and families are moving multiple times. Majority of the displaced person, we have 1.3 million people that live in displacement, out of which, as I said, 680,000 children. Majority of them are in extended families or with community members, yet around 20% are in IDP sites. And I visited one of them myself in Port-au-Prince, 7,000 people in the middle of the city in an IDP site in a very, very difficult situation, overcrowded, barely no sanitation, access to clean water, etc. So also to answer your question on the use of this report has a twofold goal. One is really to bring spotlight now that we have more evidence from our teams on the ground to demonstrate, to show the deterioration of the security situation, the increase in violence, and the fact that children and young people are really at the breaking point in Haiti. And we don't use this term lightly. The second reason is exactly what you said, to really bring the spotlight to Haiti vis-a-vis the international community and the donor community at the time where this crisis is at risk of invisibility, is at risk of disappearing from the global spotlight. And this is, of course, an element also of financial support to the crisis. This is one of those crises that is severely underfunded. And when it comes to our operation as well, of course, we are suffering from severe funding shortage, especially in areas like sanitation and child protection. And this is first and foremost a protection crisis. So we hope that this report can certainly result in media amplification and media interest, and we are seeing this already. Most importantly is really that can bring attention from the donor community back to Haiti and its children.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn?
Yes, thank you very much. Evelyn Leopold, Dag Hammarskjöld Fund for Journalists and Common Dreams. You, in your excellent presentation, I don't see where any kind of security comes into play. It seems to me that using the kind of security that we've had so far in Haiti seems to be total failure. Some have suggested, and I forget who, because I was reading all sorts of literature, some have suggested that the United States and Canada organize a real force, and they can get French speakers in both countries, and go in there and clean it up, or try to clean it up, because the current security certainly does not seem to be working.
You're right. Insecurity is at the very base, at the very ground of the situation of instability that we have in Haiti. And this is not only true for the capital, this is also true for the rest of the country. We have a situation where the insecurity is also spreading to other departments, Artibonite, Norte, and Centre. But you made reference now to a different approach, and of course the UN Security Council Resolution 2793 and the activation of what is a gang suppression force is a change of approach in addressing the widespread control of the territory by the gangs. As far as UNICEF is concerned, our main and sole concern is children, children, and children. And we want to ensure that as now this gang suppression force become operational, there are no consequences on children, there are no collateral damage on children. A number of members of the gang and the armed groups are children and adolescents. We estimate, the data of course is very difficult when it comes to monitoring the members of armed groups. We estimate up to half of the members of armed groups are children and adolescents. So of course this has implication on all fronts. So we work very hard to ensure that this resolution has a child protection language. We will work hard to train protection forces to ensure that they know what to do when it comes to protecting and promoting the rights of children at all times.
Okay, please.
Is there any talk of the United States and Canada organizing a real force rather than volunteers?
The discussion now is really to assemble what is going to be a new force, again, the gang suppression force that will rely on contribution from different governments. But again, what is very important for me in this occasion is really to bring back the attention on ensuring that children and adolescents are not caught into the operations and the inevitable clashes that will happen when the GSF will be activated. So for this, we're working very hard.
Dulcie?
Hi, I'm Dulcie Linebuck from Pass Blue. I wanted to ask about the MSS. Is it still operating? And what is your information from OAS on what role they're going to play in this gang suppression force? Thanks.
Our role now is essentially to ensure that while the MSS will transition to the GSF, and this is still a moment of transition, we have all mechanisms in place to ensure that whoever will be mandated on the ground actively to carry out this operation is properly trained, is properly knowledgeable of our protocols in respecting the humanitarian law, and trained also on protecting children and adolescents, because inevitably, because of the statistic and demographics of the situation, inevitably children and adolescents will be caught into crossfire, into situation of operation as a bystanders, but also as members themselves of the armed groups.
I think that's it for questions. So I'd like once more to thank our guest, Roberto Benes, the Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean of UNICEF. Thanks very much, and have a good day.
Thank you for having me today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good afternoon, everyone.